안녕하세요. This has been a long time coming. I should have done this already. We got plenty to catch up on, but I wanted to check out the rest of the album from ITZY, the Kill My Doubt album. Now, I already have half of this album for the music video reactions, and those are found under the ITZY playlist. And so what we're gonna do, we have Bet on Me, Cake, and None of My Business. Since all of those received their videos, then they have the reactions already. So we're gonna pick up with the second half of the album. There's 3 tracks called Bratty, Psychic Lover, and then the Kill Shot. And I have also pulled up the lyrics here just to take a look. There's sometimes more information or more insights that you can gain from also having the lyrics available. Let me check my sound levels. Okay. All right, so let's check out Bratty.
Yeah, you make me batty. 항상 같은 식인 걸. 그 눈에 빠진 놀이 속이 보여 원히 가려지지 않는 걸. 날 선 그 눈빛 매일 질투 섞인 야윤. 참 재밌게도 prove me 일어나 이러니 난 좀 배가 아플 듯. Look at you. You call me bad, good 안 나쁜 애. 언제나 제멋대로 건방지대. I'm bad. 제 말은 쉬워 그냥 받던 난도. 아무것도 나를 모르면서. I like 질투어린 너의 말이 나를 더 눈부시게 만들 테니 그날 떠들어봐 실컷 talking 뻔한 그 속을 잘 알거든. 하나둘씩 다 벗겨진 face 예쁜 가면 뒤에 늘 화가 나 있지. Wait 자 여기 봐봐 치삼 close up 화내지 말고 너 좀 웃어봐 pose. I'm Bratty 항상 같은 식인 걸. 그 눈에 빠진 어리 속이 보여 원히 가려지지 않는 걸. 일어나 이러니 난 좀 배가 아플 듯. 눈에 가시 그게 나지. 널린 가슴 같은 건 이제 sweetest. 눈 감고 떠들 때 okay. 난 바삐 바를 때 I just do what I do. 가까워져 가는 꿈 전부 난 웃어 넘길게. 언제까지 머무를래. See 내일로 난 계속 나아갈 테니 잘 지켜봐 니 작진 거기. 나는 앞으로 내일을 향해 pose. I'm ready. 항상 같은 식인 걸. 그 흔해 빠진 놀이 속이 보여 원히 가려지지 않는 걸. No. 뱉어내 bad things 매일 질투 섞인 야윤. 좀 재밌게도 prove me 일어나 이러니 난 좀 배가 아플 듯. I'm too cool for ya. I'm too cool for ya. Just keep talking about me. 내가 나빠서 네 맘이 편하다면 You just keep talking about me. 뭐라 해도 난 그냥 나일 테니 I'm ready. 항상 같은 식인 걸. 그 눈에 빠진 놀이 속이 보여 원히 가려지지 않는 걸. 날 선 그 눈빛 매일 질투 섞인 야윤. 그래도 prove me 일어나 이러니 난 좀 배가 아플 듯.
So that was, I was expecting it to be a fun song because it sounds like a fun title, you know, Bratty. And so it's definitely got a lot of that trap influence, right? Mostly in the percussion. It's very straightforward. The hi-hat, very busy 16th note pattern, fairly consistent too. Every once in a while dropping out on like the 4th beat or so. I really like the way that the bass and kick, right? You got that, it's a strong emphasis on the 1 and the 3 actually. I think it had a little bit, it felt bigger than the accent on the 2 and the 4, which sounded like almost like a clap, but it's a snare hit with like an extremely narrow sort of EQ. It's extremely tight, narrow type of sound. Doesn't have too much sustain on it, so there's not like a ton of reverb or anything. In fact, all the effects on the mix are really, really light. Like they're not like drenched in any particular type of effect. But I thought that was actually cool for the percussive rhythms, because the one is like extremely strong, and this is more of a classical type of feel to it actually, because it's always more intuitive when that first beat comes around. So it almost is very dancey, almost waltzy, without being in 3 though. And a fairly minimalistic mix, because you have bass, drums, and then you have a synth, almost like an ocarina sound. It's a sort of high-pitched, sort of like one of those wind instrument type of sounds, and it's sitting very high on the left side. It was playing a very simple little eighth note sort of motive, almost coming in on the 4th beat, and then kind of sustaining for the rest of the measure, which adds it all builds up on that one, right? Boom, and then you would get, let's see, boom, and 3, and right. It was like all the emphasis on the 1 and the 3, and then that little synth ocarina type of sound would come in on the 4th beat and kind of like prop up the next one. Boom. And so this is what gives it its feel, like the pace, the drive of this song. It's all centered around the first beat, and the vocal rhythms are very interesting. Everything underneath it is like extremely consistent. Every once in a while a beat drops out for like a beat. I mean, that you might hear like that kick disappear on the 3, but then everything comes back in on the 4. But all the mix is like real consistent, doesn't really like do anything unexpected. It kind of establishes its groove, and it sticks really, really closely to that. And then the vocal melodies over it, the vocal rhythms over it, are the most busy, syncopated part of the song, and they're not bad. The song is Bratty, so there's a lot of that sort of wiry, like upper register type of sound, but it's nice. Like it's not too much. It's not like overboard. It doesn't get like annoying or whatever, even though the title of the song is called Bratty, and it's fairly in line with the sort of ITZY empowerment kind of vibe, something that's the kind of concept that they like to do. It's one of those, like I'm gonna do this my way, things in here, you call me bad, always selfish and cheeky, it's so easy, just spit out the poison. It's actually quite interesting. It's a little bit more reserved, like this. So Bet on Me, and all the songs so far kind of are a little bit more laid back. There's some nice peaks in Bet on Me. None of My Business, again, another one of those where the vocals like very relaxed and more like rhythm centric, as opposed to being carrying strong melodies. Cake probably has the strongest melody so far. Chaeryeong's lines and her high notes probably give most of the bright contrast in the vocal parts of that song. But so far there's like this really mellow, kind of laid back vibe to the whole album. Let's see. And Psychic Lover. This is interesting. Okay, let's see here.
I can be your psychic lover, so I can read your mind. No lie, 내 눈은 적 없는 장면들이 보여 마치 꽤나 오랜 연인처럼 가 정말 긁어낸 우리 마주보고 웃는 you and I 그게 이상하게 자연스러워 때론 기싸하지 말고 과감히 굴어도 좋아 그 어떤 말보다 분명한 기쁨이 걸어봐 과감하게 숨길 수 없이 작은 이끌림 오직 너를 위한 psychic lover 섞는 세팅고 나를 믿어도 후회 안 할 걸 psychic lover 지금부터 no doubt I can be a psychic lover 하나만 pick 뭐를 고르든지 불꽃놀이같이 펴지는 케미 남은 수많은 카드 중에 어떤 걸 고르든지 계속 그린 예쁜 그림 나도 알잖니 지금 이끌림 오직 너를 위한 psychic lover 섞는 숨 치고 나를 믿어봐 틀린 적 없어 psychic lover 우리 둘은 no doubt I can be a psychic lover 우리 둘은 no doubt I can be a psychic lover
So, kind of the opposite of what Bratty does, right? Whereas Bratty's mix is extremely consistent in its groove and its overall like substance, like the different elements in this mix. Now Psychic Lover is doing a completely different thing. There is one rhythmic pattern that's being played on here, and it's the 1 2 and 4 1 2 and 4, and it's a little bit more laid back when we have like the verse section, right? Then there's a rhythmic change that comes in the pre-chorus, and there's some like busy 16th note hat little fills that come in the percussion, and then the chorus section brings us a sort of pop rock, and it's just a difference in tempo, because it's actually the same rhythmic pattern. It's still 1 2 and 4 1 2 and 4, but it's upbeat now, right? And so it's using the same rhythm but in a different way, and giving it like changing up the vibe completely. But whereas Bratty was like, it started and basically held to that same patterns and everything throughout, all the way from start to finish. Now Psychic Lover is taking you through different feels and different times. The mix, there was the bass sound almost sounded like a really, really low synth strings, and then there was a very bright sounding keys sound in there, like some sort of synth keyboard sound, and this very staccato. The bass would come in on the 1, and then the synth keys are hitting on 2 and 4, and they're extremely staccato, boom 2 boom boom boom. It's sort of bouncy. It's sort of like almost trying to pull off of the keys as soon as you hit them, to be very detached, right? Until the the last post-chorus section, after the bridge, when the chorus section comes around at the end of the song, we get a shift into a different kind of synth bass, and it's all legato, sustained whole notes, like just the holding up the entire chord progression and building up to the last post-chorus. The post-chorus of the song brings in a lot more of the melodic aspects of the vocals too, whereas Bratty was much more rhythm centric, lots of syncopation, interesting patterns. This post-chorus, especially with the ooze, right, that sort of vocal line puts prioritizes a melodic sort of invention, right? Like over rhythm at that part right there, and then some of the other vocal work as well. I thought this bridge was really fun. Was that Ryujin? I think it's kind of sounded like it. And just the delivery on it, I was like, oh, this must be Ryujin, because it kind of has a little bit of swag, you know. I always enjoy her parts, but this is fun. This is a nice contrast to Bratty, and it might not be. It might be about as busy as far as the mix goes as Cake was, but it's definitely got the fastest tempo. So kind of like this is bringing a lot of energy at this point in the album. So Bet on Me, Cake, a little bit like, so Bet on Me is very like, it's like dreamy, airy, kind of, you know, has this and the bass actually is very nice and full, but a lot of the mix over it is a little bit more spread out. Cake is very bright by comparison. None of My Business is a little bit more laid back. It's kind of steamy. Bratty, then that was fun. That was it's actually really, really nice. From None of My Business to Bratty to Psychic Lover, that's a really nice, you know, flow from one vibe into the next vibe into another vibe, sort of building up, right? It's kind of getting a little bit more interesting by the time we hit Psychic Lover, but it definitely fun the way this song starts to kind of tell you a story, kind of give you different feels and, you know, different situations going through its transitions from verse to pre-chorus to chorus, and a nice balance as far as the vocals go. Some of the verse lines are a little bit more deliberately paced, right? So there's some detachment going on there, but then your pre-chorus and post-chorus really start to give things more sustain, fill out more of these measures, and by the time we get to post-chorus, we have that nice sort of melodic shape that's going on. It's a little peak every time the ooh lines go. They're paired up with the other lines that constitute the post-chorus, but it gives it a very nice shape. The sort of melodic lines have a very, very cool shape to them. Let's see. Kill Shot. Okay, this is interesting. I'm on Genius for the lyric sheets, and they don't all have the parts. Like, they don't. Sometimes they'll tell you who's singing what part, but it has it for Kill Shot, but not for the other two. Maybe it has it for the other songs, like the first three A-sides. Let's see. Okay, this is a fairly concise album too. Just looking at some of these time signatures, None of My Business being the longest track. This Kill Shot is rather short, coming in at just over 2 minutes. Let's see.
Kill shot, 다음은 guess what? 하나도 남김없이 모두 해줘. 막막한 머릿속 red light 긴장하지마 don't mind 늘 언제나 하던 대로 딴 생각은 비워버려도 기회는 한 번뿐이지 실수는 안 돼 끝까지 지금 이 떨림 불안함까지 올림 다해 내리면 돼 날 믿으면 돼 긴 어떤 Kill shot, 다음은 guess what? 하나도 남김없이 모두 hit ya. Kill shot 하나 남은 count 다 쓰러져 down so never doubt Yeah, you 속에 stay I don't want it 흔들리지 마 날 향하는 ice 난 즐길 거야 내 던져준 다이 가슴 끝에 달린 game Take that 없애 back 도망치지 않고 face 포기 없는 빛 방심한 사이 파고든 채 쌓이는 게또 그렇나 봐 길었으니까 입을 끝내면 돼 Kill shot 다만 guess what 하나도 남김없이 모두 hit야 They all fall down.
This song feels the most ITZY. You know what I mean? Thinking about the established songs. Do you know the Talatalas and the ICs and the Wannabe? You know what I mean? Like this one actually feels reminiscent of most of that earlier A-side stuff, although it's very different because the synth in this is that synth bass is like really strong, and it's a synth wave, man. This is like, it's got that sort of cyberpunk synth wave, retro wave type of bass going on, doing a very cool pattern of 16th notes with some syncopation. It's kind of staying off the sort of downbeats, and you get like eanda, and also the mix changes up a lot. Like parts are dropping out here and there. The percussion drops out to finish up a verse section. And there's some high-pitched synths also that are going on. You have a busy hi-hat on like a 16th note sort of rhythm, and then a fairly straightforward like bass on 1 and 3, accent on 1 and 4, a sort of almost like a clap sound. Might be that narrow snare thing again with a little bit of reverb, but it's enough to make it sound very sort of clappy. The vocals are they're busy, kind of like maybe with Cake. I wish I had the parts for Bratty, because this is you can tell Ria Jean on the intro, right? The way she delivers her lines, she is a breathy and low with a little bit of vocal fry and some of her lines, and it's just Ria Jean, like it's very Ria Jean. Yeji, she's got some wonderful melodies in here. She rounds out the first verse. She kind of brings that to its conclusion. A very nice delivery. And then Chaeryeong also, her parts. She goes into the pre-chorus here the first time around, and then Ria Jean and Yuna on the chorus. So the first time around it's Ria Jean and Yuna, and the second time around it's Yeji and Chaeryeong, and you can hear the difference very distinctly, in those lines, those chorus lines that are delivered. This sort of swish swish part, that was fun. I bet they had a good time recording that on the vocal. Let's see. uh, but this one, and the bridge, another, so like instead of using the bridge section to shift into some sort of developing chord progression or introduce other sounds, this became like parts sort of dropped out, and there was more emphasis on the vocal, and they did something interesting here lyrically, because as you've seen with like songs like Cheshire, this line about how they all fall down, that's like Ring Around the Rosies, right? So again, it feels very ITZY, right? Like this reminds me of those earlier songs, for the sound, like the elements that are in the mix, not necessarily the style, but the elements, the strong synth sound that's in this. And then some of these lyrics in here too, things like they all fall down, which occurs many times in the it pops up a couple times in the bridge, but this it feels like, like a more contemporary take on an ITZY song, for sure. And so it did build up, okay, because Psychic Lover being, more interesting, giving you different feels, different looks as the song plays out. It's transitions between the sections from verse to pre-chorus to chorus, post-chorus. This song continues building up and like becoming busier. It's what, like that main synth groove that's going on, that synth wave type of little device that's going on there, that's very consistent whenever it does come along, and gives the mix like most of its color. But it's, the rhythmic change ups, the different patterns that are being used in the mix, and also in the vocal, really, and also its runtime of 2 minutes 17. It's like, man, it feels like it goes by so quickly. It the tempo is not really like, it's not like that fast. It's it's a little bit more laid back than it feels, but just a lot of when like the mix dropping out, the vocal kind of changing up rhythms here and there, the synth bass part that comes in, it's actually very evenly balanced. You only have because the thing is, they accomplish so much in such a short runtime. It's to fit all of this in here, is pretty impressive, actually. They managed to, pull off a lot of work, just over a 2-minute window, which is, that's pretty impressive, man. So this is an interesting album for sure. I really need to go back and listen to some of the earlier ITZY albums. But if I'm just going off of the A sides, they were not as dark as this album. And it's not like this album's trying to be brooding and totally just noir throughout, because it's not. But the different bass sounds, and the the movement away from a lot of melodic vocal work, more emphasis on rhythm, these things make the overall tone of this album a little bit darker. And if I just think of the earlier A-sides, stuff like Sneakers and those other songs, there was a lot more color. Just many of the parts in the mix had arpeggiations and things that gave it a lot of, colorful feels. Like there's chromaticism and there's different sort of motifs that are going on in a lot of the parts. And so but this had a lot of space in its mixes. You had really awesome bass sounds, but there was so much space in between the bass and the drums and whatever the rhythm part was filling with, and then the vocals. I mean, there's a lot of space there. And so the overall effect of that is to make this album a little bit darker, but it still manages to be really fun. Fun, to very sort of energetic, to even like Bet on Me. Bet on Me it's a more sort of grown-up take on the ITZY empowerment sort of concept, whereas Bratty that feels a little bit more like some earlier ITZY too, just the way that they play on the concept. Bet on Me, though, man, it's almost like an inspirational song, When I listen to Bet on Me, and there's something about it. It's it's the lyric, it's the way that the vocals are delivered. It makes you feel good. If you're having if there's something you need to get over, if there's something you need to let go, Bet on Me will give you a certain type of resolve, and it can help with that kind of emotion. Cake is it's probably the lightest, like the most lighthearted song on the album. None of My Business is it also feels a little bit more grown up. The laid back vocals, that sort of cool sounding mix that it has going on, and also a lot of the concept of the song too, because it's kind of like getting over a relationship. So that kind of it tends more towards like a mature type of experienced type, like you have to go through something, you know what I mean, and then understand kind of what the vibe of that song is. And then Bratty being a little bit more fun, so it's a nice contrast, like I said, between None of My Business and Bratty. And then Psychic Lover, which starts to bring in this very contrasting feel between the sections. It gets much busier, and then Killshot keeps that going. It still continues to build up, but Killshot is that concise, quick, cool, confident type of like song, right? It is the kill shot. It's the finisher, right? And it's a nice, distribution of lines. It kind of like everybody kind of gets in there, gets their shots in, gets their licks in, right? Gets their lines in, and everything. Okay. Kill shot, one remaining count. Everything falls down, so never doubt. Swish, swish. So there's different references, like swish, as in basketball, as in like swish, nothing but net, right? It's a finisher, and it's like I said, it's kind of impressive that they were able to fit so much within just a couple of minutes, because it's quite busy as you're like trying to keep up with this. Okay. Counting the different rhythms in the mix, it feels very full. It feels like, oh man, this is very saturated with all the different elements and all different things that are going on. So that makes it a punctuation. It makes it that kill shot that it is. So it's it's a very interesting album, to because you go from Bet on Me to Kill Shot. If you like, and there's a shape. There's a map. There's different areas that this album sort of takes you into, conceptually, emotionally, in terms of the feeling behind every song. It's kind of showing you a lot of different sides, a lot of different sights, um, and it's a pretty fun ride. It is pretty fun, you know. It's but I think it's a great ITZY album. Again, I have to really go back and listen to the earlier albums, but I just when Bet on Me dropped, I really had this feeling like, wow, ITZY is they're growing up, they're all these young ladies now, these young women, whereas before they were very young. They had that young energy, right? They had that coming up after Twice, the sort of fourth gen, the next gen, part of that next gen JYP artist type of thing. So they had a super young energy. But when Bet on Me dropped, I was like, oh, this is different. Like, this is not it just felt like they were growing up. And I think this album continues that type of vibe and that type of feeling, because they, you got Bratty, you got Cake, and those, start to feel a little bit more like the older ITZY songs. Kill Shot, because of its very strong synth sound, that is sort of intuitive from previous ITZY tracks, but they have advanced in a way. They've grown and they've developed and they've reached another era. They've reached another time in life, and I think that's kind of like one of the underlying sort of thematic aspects of this album. But it's great work, man. It's great work. Because they had a time with actually picking the songs for this album, and then they had some hurdles to get over in the recording of this album. Like, it wasn't easy. It was, not that it's always easy or whatever, but there was a little bit more to it. If you watch like the behind the making of documentary for this album, you get to see a lot of the challenges that they had. And so between that and the concept, and then this sort of underlying theme of development, even the visuals, right? Like they're all the boxing gloves, and like they're fighting, like they're fighting their way through stuff. And so I think that kind of all contributes to the sort of character of this album. But it's very cool. I'm kind of proud for ITZY, you know what I mean? I'm like, I feel good for them. I feel good that they're doing so well, and really sort of, they came into their own as far as their sound and their style, but now they want to pick another direction to go in, and it still sounds different, like it's different, right? Like at the beginning, it was this whole it's different type of a thing, and they've managed to not lose that. They're not trying to sound like anyone else, you know, like they're not really leaning in that direction. um, there's something that just makes ITZY, and as they grow and develop and mature and all of this, they are holding on to that and finding new ways to, you know, express themselves while still adhering to that, and staying true to like what makes ITZY. And I think that that's very cool. I think this is something that will come to be appreciated more as time goes by. Now the ITZY Japanese album, the first one, Ringo, that's coming up, and I think that's gonna be like really good. If we're just going off of Twice, you know, the Japanese, the examples of the Japanese singles, the Japanese albums, even Misamo, right, a subunit, it's always so good. It's like they're always just really, really good. Among a discography of works that are all very good too. But there's just something about them that make them like these high points in the discography, and I'm thinking that it's going to be very similar with ITZY. It's going to be ITZY, but it's got to be like, you know, just a really, really awesome album. I'm curious as to what the sounds are going to be like, how the mix is going to be different, how if the writing is going to be different, how they're going to sound, you know, with Japanese lyrics in the vocals and everything. But I'm sure it's going to be good. Like I have no doubt that the Ringo album is going to be good. It is Ringo, right? I'm pretty sure. I was thinking like Rango, but I go, no, that's the lizard movie. That's the chameleon movie or whatever. But anyways, ITZY, Kill My Doubt. I think this is a really good album. It's got some, you know, some like Bet on Me. That's a song that I just love. I can listen to that all the time. Cake, None of My Business, and then these 3 sort of B-side songs. You know, I think the entire album maintains its consistency and its quality, and like I said, it's ITZY, sticking to what who they are, and just you know, their own feelings and their own experiences, and their own style. So it's very cool stuff, man. It's very cool. I feel really good for ITZY. I'm so glad that they're you know, still they work so hard. You know what I mean? They're just I do have a lot of appreciation for ITZY as a group. I just they're just they're just special. All JYP groups, girl groups, you know, they're all very special for who they are, you know, together as a group. Like ITZY wouldn't be ITZY with any one of the members. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't feel the same. And I think it's like that with most of the JYP groups. But it's a great album, man. I'm looking forward to the Japanese album, because I think that's gonna be even better. You know what I mean? Like I think it's gonna be even better. I think they're just gonna keep getting better. So we'll check that one out when it comes.